The United States and Israel were putting the final touches on plans to attack Iran. However, shortly before the operation, the CIA shifted its focus to the most important target, the precise location of the Supreme Leader, Ali Khamenei. A silent intelligence surveillance effort had been ongoing for months. The CIA unraveled Khamenei's daily routine, his hiding locations, and his movement patterns. Then came the critical intelligence. On the morning of February 28th, senior Iranian figures would gather in that massive leadership complex in the heart of Tehran, and most importantly, Khamenei himself would be present at the meeting. Under normal circumstances, such air operations are carried out under the cover of darkness, and that was the original plan. Remember the moments when Maduro was captured. But Washington and Tel Aviv made a sudden decision to evaluate this fleeting opportunity that had landed in their hands. The timing of the attack was changed. The objective was to eliminate the top figures of Iran, including Khamenei, in a single strike and win the war at its very beginning. Of course, such an assassination would not necessarily mean they had won the war. Here we are not only decoding explosive missiles, but also the intelligence wars that lock those missiles onto their targets, and the global chessboard attempting to redraw borders through organizations such as PJAK. The speed with which the leader was targeted was the result of a deep intelligence network established between the United States and Israel against Iran after the 12-day war that took place last year. The CIA immediately transferred its intelligence regarding Khamenei's location to Israel. Meanwhile, Iranian leaders, despite clear signals of an approaching war, displayed a major security weakness by making the mistake of gathering in the same place at the same time while both countries were preparing for conflict. When Khamenei's loyal guards and drivers set out toward that high-security complex on Pasteur Street, they were not alone. Israeli intelligence was tracking them, second by second. Over the years, almost all traffic cameras in Tehran had been quietly infiltrated. The images captured by these cameras were encrypted and streamed to Tel Aviv and to massive servers in southern Israel. One particular camera angle was worth its weight in gold. It clearly showed where the guards parked their personal vehicles and the daily operational routine of that heavily guarded complex. This enormous pile of data was processed through complex algorithms. The home addresses of the guards, their working hours, the routes they used to go to work, and most importantly, the individuals assigned to protect Khamenei were identified and categorized one by one. Thanks to this map, what intelligence officers call the life cycle, even the breathing patterns of the targets were effectively under observation. But knowing that Khamenei would be in his office that morning was not enough by itself for the operation. To eliminate chance, Israel and the CIA disabled the signal infrastructure of communication towers around Pasteur Street. When calls were made to the guards' phones, the line simply returned a busy signal, physically preventing any early warnings or danger messages from reaching them. "We knew Tehran at least as well as we know Jerusalem," said one Israeli official. The data collection effort by Israel's Signals Intelligence Unit 8200 was the result of field agents from Mossad and artificial intelligence filtered data processed daily by military intelligence. Additionally, the Americans had something even more concrete: direct human intelligence from inside Iran. When the CIA placed this critical information on the table, it was time to press the button. From the killing of Iranian Quds Force Commander Qasem Soleimani until today, numerous Iranian officials have been eliminated through precision strikes based on knowledge of their locations. The targeted complex represented the heart of Iran's administration, the offices of the presidency, the religious leadership, and the National Security Council were all there. Israeli intelligence identified who was inside: Revolutionary Guard Commander Mohammad Pakpour, Defense Minister Aziz Nasserzadeh, Military Council Chairman Admiral Ali Shamkhani, IRGC Aerospace Force Commander Said Majid Mousavi, and Intelligence Aide Mohammad Shirazi. All of them were present. The operation began around 6 a.m. Israel time with the takeoff of warplanes. According to claims, there were not many aircraft in the sky, but the munitions they carried were long-range, highly precise missiles. 2 hours and 5 minutes after takeoff, at exactly 9:40 a.m. Tehran local time, the missiles struck the complex. Senior national security officials were in a building within the compound, while Khamenei was in another nearby structure. According to a leaked message from an Israeli defense official to the press, several different points in Tehran, where the political and military elite had gathered, were struck simultaneously that morning. Khamenei's 37-year leadership ended with this attack. An unidentified field agent who had infiltrated the area reportedly delivered photos of Khamenei's body directly to Donald Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu through a secret line. It was also reported that Israeli aircraft preferred using missiles, known as Sparrow, in the strikes, missiles capable of hitting specific targets with high precision from distances exceeding 1,000 kilometers without entering the range of Iran's air defense network. It had been expected that Iranian officials would quickly descend underground and hide in shelters beyond the reach of Israeli bombs during wartime. It is known that Khamenei takes certain security measures during war periods. His absence from one of these shelters that morning was actually unusual. It was said that if he had been inside the shelter, Israel would not have been able to reach him with its current munitions. Advancing the timing of the attack was therefore a strategic necessity for Israel and the United States. Once the war officially began, finding these figures would become impossible. In moments of conflict, everyone would quickly descend underground and retreat into deep bunkers unaffected by Israeli bombs. In reality, Khamenei was not someone who lived underground like Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah. As you may recall, Nasrallah hid in bunkers for years until he was struck by 80 bombs in Beirut in September 2024. Khamenei, on the contrary, often said that his life was insignificant compared to Iran's destiny and openly expressed the idea of martyrdom before the public. We may never know all the details of this event because intelligence agencies will keep some secrets forever to protect their sources and methods. Looking behind the scenes of the operation reveals months of preparation and an active intelligence network. In fact, signals had appeared months earlier. In June of last year, Trump made a very striking statement, saying they knew exactly where Khamenei was hiding, and that if they wanted, they could eliminate him at that very moment. According to a former U.S. official, the intelligence network that guided the February 28 morning strike was the same one Trump had referred to. In the time that followed, that network reached an unbelievable level. Especially during the 12-day war, the United States and Israel collected extremely critical data: how Khamenei and the Revolutionary Guard communicated under pressure, which routes they used to change locations. Everything was decoded step by step. By analyzing these behavioral patterns, Washington's strength and its ability to track the supreme leader step by step and even predict his next move in advance. But these assassinations were not limited to political and military leaders. The United States and Israel also obtained the coordinates of key intelligence officers in Iran. After the first missiles struck the leadership complex on Saturday morning, a second wave began. This time, the locations where intelligence chiefs were hiding were targeted directly. When the operation ended, Iran's intelligence network had suffered a heavy blow. The #1 intelligence officer at the top narrowly survived the attack, but much of the senior administrative cadre of Iran's intelligence apparatus was killed. With the leadership cadre eliminated, it can be said that a massive vacuum emerged in Tehran. The hierarchy of administration has effectively collapsed for the time being. Due to the destruction at the center, Iran was forced to move decision-making authority to lower levels in the middle of the war. The objectives of both the United States and Israel are to degrade Iran's ballistic missile launch capability. Israeli aircraft strike launch platforms to prevent coordinated missile barrages, but despite being decapitated, Iran has not surrendered. Even after the leadership cadre was eliminated, missiles and drones continue to be launched. Moreover, as you know, the targets are not only Israel. U.S. military bases in Qatar, Kuwait, and the UAE, as well as energy infrastructure that forms the lifeline of the region, are direct targets. Tehran's aim is to make the world and Gulf states pay such a high price that they pressure Washington to declare an immediate ceasefire. Alongside all this, there is also a darker and more fanatical side across the ocean. According to an official report from a U.S. non-commissioned officer, an American commander stood before his soldiers and declared that this war was sanctified by Jesus, according to the NCO's account. The commander said the following with a wide and frightening smile: Jesus chose Trump to light the signal fire in Iran, to begin Armageddon, and to herald the return of Christ to the world. American leaders who believe everything must proceed through Christian doctrine are trying to pull those under their command into their own ideological world. Meanwhile, Trump paints a calmer picture in front of cameras in Washington. He claims that Iran's stockpiles of weapons and missiles are running out and argues that the conflicts will end completely within 4 to 5 weeks, or perhaps just a few days. But the situation on the ground clearly contradicts Trump. Iran's missiles have not stopped. In short, no near-term victory or sudden collapse is visible on the horizon. On the contrary, the world appears to be drifting toward a bloody, multi-dimensional war of attrition. According to experts, in the coming days American and Israeli bombardment will move away from political targets and focus directly on the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the Basij militias, and Iran's internal security apparatus. While Tehran burns, another front sees this destruction as an opportunity. The CIA is actively trying to arm the organizations PJAK and PKK to incite the Iranian population to revolt. The matter has reached such an official dimension that Donald Trump reportedly held a direct phone call with Mustafa Hydri, leader of the Iranian Kurdish Democratic Party. The Trump administration is said to be intensively working to provide military support to these organizations, which have thousands of militants along the Iraqi border. These groups, having received direct support from the United States and Israel, are expected to begin ground attacks in western Iran in the coming days. However, Turkey's security bureaucracy, monitoring this entire map and the border movements closely from Ankara, is also present in the scene. Turkey, which had already analyzed this dangerous game in the Middle East, did not remain a spectator to the creation of a new terrorist corridor right next to its borders. Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan, during a joint press conference in January with his Iranian counterpart Abbas Araghchi, emphasized the existing threat. Fidan pointed out that the PKK and PJAK were trying to exploit regional chaos and stressed that this situation posed not only a threat to Turkey, but also a deadly threat to Iran, calling for a joint anti-terrorism operation. This diplomatic step immediately resonated on the ground. In January, one of the most striking and concrete examples of intelligence warfare occurred. An armed PJAK group, supported by American and Israeli intelligence services, moved under the cover of night to infiltrate Iranian territory via Iraq. But Turkey's National Intelligence Organization MIT was already ahead of them. With its field agents and advanced technical intelligence capabilities, MIT tracked these dangerous movements along the border second by second. All infiltration routes and precise coordinates were identified. This vital intelligence was immediately transmitted to Iranian authorities with an urgent code. Acting on this information, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard launched an operation in the rural areas of Ilam and Kermanshah. Iranian security forces quickly surrounded the region, sealed the militants' escape routes thanks to the coordinates provided by MIT, and foiled the infiltration attempt. While the United States and Israel arm organizations along the borders to destabilize Iran from within, Turkey provides a direct intelligence shield for the territorial integrity of its neighbor in order to protect its own regional security. While efforts are being made to redraw borders in the region through terrorist elements, Ankara counters this map engineering through the power of intelligence and diplomacy. As the echoes of today's story fade back into the archive, we are left once again at the edge of the unknown. Thank you for journeying with us to the fringes of history and science. If these mysteries resonated with you, we invite you to support the channel by liking this video and subscribing to our growing community of seekers. Share this transmission on your social networks. Your curiosity is what keeps these stories alive. We will return soon with another chapter that was never meant to be told. Until our next encounter, stay curious. This is Wikivedia Plus.